Tonight, let your mind wander through the quiet corridors of ancient Rome as we explore its words and wonders, from grand arches and sacred altars to everyday household items, priestly rituals and timeless cultural concepts. Each term whispers a story from a world long past. Settle in, close your eyes, and let the gentle language of Rome guide you toward peaceful sleep, one ancient word at a time. Abominare, the verb meaning to avert an omen, particularly to take action that rejects or averts an unfavourable omen, indicated by a sign. Acrota, a pedestal at the corners or peak of a roof to support an ornament. Edes, the dwelling place of a god, a structure that housed a deity's image, distinguished from the templum or sacred district, can translate as shrine or temple. Edicula, a small shrine or pavilion-like structure enclosing a niche for a statue, often consisting of a pediment resting on a pair of columns. Aedilis, a public official whose duties included the overseeing of public works, such as the building and maintenance of temples. Ager, in religious usage, territory or land defined for augury. There were 5 kinds: Romanus, Gabinus, Peregrinus, Hosticus, and Incertus. Ala, a side room or room on the wings of the atrium. Amphora, a conical storage vase with 2 handles used to store and transport both liquids and dry contents. Anta, pier or pilaster formed by a thickening at the end of a wall. Its capital and base differ from those of the columns forming part of the same order. Apoditerium, a dressing room in a bath complex. Apotropaic, magic properties of an object, image, or symbol intended to turn away harm or evil influences. Ara, the focal point of sacrifice, the altar. Most altars were simple, open-air structures often without an Edes housing a cult image. Arbor Felix, a tree classified as fruitful or auspicious if protected by heavenly gods, includes oaks, birch, hazelnut, white fig, pear, apple, grape, plum, cornus, lotus, olive, laurel and poplar. Arbor Infelix, trees under the protection of chthonic gods, listed as buckthorn, red cornel, fern, black fig, holly, woodland pear, butcher's broom, briar, and brambles. Aretine ware, ceramics produced in the Tuscan city of Arezzo, a coral red tableware with relief decorations applied by punching, as Roman bronze then later copper, coin used during the Augustine period equal in value to 1/4 of a sestertius. Ashlar, precisely cut stone capable of very thin joints between blocks, and the visible face of the stone may be quarry-faced or feature a variety of treatments. Astragal, moulding profile composed of a half-round surface surrounded by 2 flat planes, sometimes referred to as a miniature torus. Atrium, large open-air or skylight-covered space providing light and ventilation to the interior. Attic, that part of the entablature above the cornice used to hide the roof of a structure or to make the structure more impressive. Atrectare, to touch, handle, lay hands on, in a religious sense refers to handling sacred objects during rituals. Only sacerdotes populi Romani could do this positively. Auctoritas, general level of prestige a person had in Roman society, his clout, influence and ability to rally support around his will. Augur, priest whose main role was to interpret the will of the gods by studying the flight of birds. Auguraculum, a ritual space from which augurs observe the templum, including the construction of an augural tent. Augurium, an abstract noun pertaining to augury, the sacral investiture of the augur, ritual actions, augural law or established signs. Aureus, gold coin of ancient Rome originally valued at 25 pure silver denarii. Auspex, diviner who reads omens from birds. Taking the auspices was required for ceremonies, elections, campaigns. Auspicia, signs derived from birds, thunder, sacred chickens, quadrupeds, or threatening portents. Auspicia impetrativa, signs that were solicited under highly regulated ritual conditions, required for public assemblies and could only be sought from an auguraculum. Auspicia oblativa, unsolicited signs sent by a deity to express approval or disapproval. Auspicia privata, private auspices taken for matters like marriage or travel. Avarnkara, ritual action to avert a misfortune intimated by an omen. Bacchant, followers of Dionysus known as Bacchus in Roman religion. Balneum, bath suite in a private Roman home understood to be smaller than a thermae. Balsamarium, an ancient vessel for holding balsam, an aromatic resin used as a base for fragrances and medical preparations. Barrel vault, an architectural element formed by the extrusion of a single curve along a given distance. Bellum justum, a just war, justified both formally and substantively, as per fetial law. Bicchieri, drinking glass or beaker. Bucranium, carved decoration depicting the skull of an ox, commonly used in classical architecture. Ceremonia, the word from which English ceremony derives, used to mean inviolability, sanctity, or ritual prescriptions. Calata, assistants, public slaves, who carried out day-to-day business for senior priests. Capite velato, with the head covered. Officiants at public rituals covered their head with a fold of their toga, a distinctly Roman practice. Carmen, a song, poem, hymn, chant, spell, or charm used for ritualistic purposes. Cartibulum, oblong table of stone standing on one or more pedestals. Caryatid, sculpted female figure serving as an architectural support taking the place of a column or a pillar. Castus, adjective meaning morally or ritually pure. Castitas is the abstract noun. Ritual and priestly purity was paramount. Cenaculum, initially a dining room on the upper floor of a Roman house, but eventually was used to refer to an entire apartment, or even the entire upper floor. Chamfer, transitional edge between two faces of an object, sometimes defined as a form of bevel, often created at a 45-degree angle. Cinctus gabinus, a way of wearing the toga that allowed free use of arms, used in ancient martial and some religious contexts. Cithara, ancient Greek musical instrument in the yoke lutes family that was a 7-stringed professional version of the 4-stringed lyre. Clavum figure, to nail in, to fasten the nail, an expression for fixing or sealing fate, as in the ritual of driving a nail in the temple of Jupiter. Clientela, clients or dependents of the pater familias. Coxiopesto, building material made from crushed tiles or bricks. Collegium, any association with legal personality, often a priestly college overseeing religious tradition, including pontifices, augurs, quindecim viri sacris faciundis, and septem viri epulonum. Comitia calata, non-voting religious assemblies convened in the presence of the College of Pontiffs for inaugurations and witnessing wills. Commentari augurum, writings of the College of Augurs, recording decrees and responses. Commentari pontificum, writings of the College of Pontiffs, recording decrees and official proceedings. Compluvium, open space left in the roof of the atrium of a Roman house for lighting and collection of rainwater. Conjectura, speculative interpretation of unexpected signs, as opposed to observation according to rule. Consecratio, the ritual act creating an aedes or altar distinct from inauguratio. Cornice, upper section of an entablature, a projecting shelf along the top of a wall often supported by brackets or corbels. Cruma, tough but porous igneous rock. Cubiculum, private room in an ancient Roman house occupied by a high-status family member used for sleep, sex, business meetings, and display of art. Cultus, the active maintenance, respect, and worship owed to a deity, expectation that such devotion matters to the gods, root of English cult. Decretum, binding explications of doctrine by the official priests preserved in written form. Delubrum, shrine or building housing an image of a god, sometimes refers to the building and the area around, especially where water runs. Denarius, Roman silver coin originally equal to 10 asses or 10 pounds of bronze. Dentil, one of a series of small rectangular blocks projecting from a moulding or beneath a cornice. Detestatio sacrorum, ritual renunciation of former family religious duties upon adoption into another gens or family. Deus, God, the general term for all gods. Devotio, an extreme form of votum in which a Roman general vows to sacrifice his own life and that of the enemy to chthonic deities for victory in battle. Dieta, room or set of rooms with a view of a garden, landscape or seascape. Dies Augusti, an anniversary pertaining to the imperial family. Dies Imperii, the date an emperor assumed imperium observed annually. Dies Lustricus, a day of purification for newborns, 8th day for girls, 9th for boys, when the child was named. Dies Natalis, birthday or anniversary of a founding event, also the foundation date of a temple or city. Dies Religiosus, a day on the calendar on which it was wrong to undertake any action beyond basic necessities, marked by religious taboo. Dies Vitiosus, a day on which public business was prohibited by indication of a religious defect or unpropitious omen. Dirus, dire, awful, omens, threatening portents regarded as very negative by augurs. Disciplina Etrusca, the collective body of knowledge, doctrine, ritual and divination inherited from Etruscan religion. Divus, divine, refers to mortals who have become divine, used for the deified Roman emperors. Duut des, literally, I give that you might give, expressing the reciprocal contractual relationship between humans and deities. Dolium, large earthenware vase or vessel used for storage or transportation of goods. Domus, house occupied by the upper classes and some wealthy freedmen during the Republican and Imperial eras. Dupondius, brass coin used during the Roman Republic and Roman Empire, originally valued at 2 asses or 1/5 of a denarius. Ephari, to create boundaries by fixed verbal formulas, part of inaugurating a templum. Eggan dart, an egg-shaped ornament alternating with a dart-like ornament, used to enrich ovolo and echinus mouldings. Emblem, motifs used as floating elements in Greek and Roman wall paintings. Emblema, portable mosaic made of fine tesserae on a terracotta or travertine tray for insertion into a floor. Entablature, a superstructure of mouldings and bands which lie horizontally above columns, resting on their capitals. Epistyle, lintel or beam that rests on the capitals of columns, also known as an architrave. Erotes, winged deities associated with love and sexual intercourse that are part of Aphrodite's retinue. Evocatio, ritual calling forth, or summoning of a deity from a besieged city, promising greater cult honours in Rome. Exorguratio, ceremony by which a deity is ceremonially removed from a location, usually so its purpose can be changed. Exedra, room featuring a semicircular architectural recess, often crowned by a semi-dome fully open on one side and usually located adjacent to the peristyle. Eximius, adjective used of sacrificial victims that are select or of superior quality. Exumis, in ancient Rome, a sleeveless vest, often worn by slaves or artisans. Exter, the entrails of a sacrificed animal, gallbladder, liver, heart, lungs, examined for signs and offered to gods. Facade, an exterior side of a building, usually the front. Familia, the basic Roman social unit, which might include the domus but was legally distinct from it. Fanaticus, related to a fanum, a sacred precinct, refers to temple attendants or ecstatic cult devotees, often used disparagingly. Fanum, a plot of consecrated ground, a sanctuary or temple, used for sacred places of non-Roman as well as Roman cults. Fas, what is religiously legitimate or lawful in the eyes of the gods, distinguishes divine from human law. Fasta Deorum, utterances or prophecies of the gods, recorded and conserved by priests. Fasti, records or plans of official and religiously sanctioned events, or the days on which such events may occur. Forces, entrance hall, feria, public holidays, days on which no work was done, including fixed, movable, and special one-off holidays. Festus, a festive or holy day dedicated to a deity or deities. Public business was forbidden. Fetiales, fetial priests, an order whose role was particularly important in foreign affairs and treaties. Finis, limit, border or boundary, essential in augural practice. First style, structural, incrustation or masonry style, the most popular Roman interior painting design from 200 BCE until 80 BCE. Flamen, priests each serving a particular deity, considered among the oldest priesthoods. Forma di pasticceria, a pastry mould, either elliptical or shell-shaped, although recent research reveals these bronze vessels may have been used for personal ablutions. Fourth style, characterized as a Baroque reaction to the third style's mannerism, the fourth style in Roman wall painting utilized intricate paintings and used the wall in its entirety. Fratriarvales, the Brothers of the Field, a priestly college concerned with agriculture and farming. Fresco, mural painting executed upon freshly laid or wet lime plaster. Gabinus, adjective describing elements of religion attributed to the traditions of Gabi, a Latin town with special status. Garum, fermented fish sauce used as a condiment in the cuisines of ancient Greece, Rome, Carthage, and later Byzantium. Graffito, deliberate mark made by scratching or engraving on a large surface such as a wall. Grisaille, a painting executed entirely in shades of grey or of another neutral greyish colour. Herm, statue consisting of a four-cornered pillar surmounted by a bust or head, usually that of Hermes, and generally displayed with genitals. Hermaphroditus, son of Aphrodite and Hermes with the attributes of both male and female. Hippocampus, mythological creature depicted as having the upper body of a horse with the lower body of a fish. Hortus, Roman garden, also known as viridarium. Hostia, the animal offering in a sacrifice, sometimes distinguished from victima as being smaller or pre-battle. Hypocaust, heating system that circulates hot air below the floor. Hypostyle, in architecture a hypostyle hall has a roof which is supported by columns. Impluvium, sunken part of the atrium in a Greek or Roman house designed to carry away rainwater, coming through the compluvium of the roof. In situ, in place, on site, or in position. Inauguratio, augural rite in which an individual or place is invested with sacred status and divine approval is received. Indigitamenta, lists of divine names maintained by the College of Pontiffs to assure the correct gods were invoked. Insula, city block in a city plan or type of apartment building that occupied a Roman city block usually owned by a single individual. Insularis, caretaker of an insula. Intercolumnum, space between a series of columns, also called intercolumniation. Invocatio, the addressing of a deity in prayer or magic, often involving extensive lists of a deity's names or titles. Ius, justice, right, and law, the basic concept of law including ius divinum, divine law. Ius divinum, sacred law concerning the rights of the gods and the maintenance of correct relations between humans and the divine. Janus, god of beginnings, gates, transitions, time, duality, doorways, passages, and endings, usually depicted as having two faces. Jupiter Capitolinus, temple built for the worship of the divine triad, Jupiter, Juno, and Minerva, on hills and other prominent areas in many cities. Canthros, cup used to hold wine, possibly for drinking or for ritual use or offerings. Lagina, flask or mug with narrow neck and mouth used by the Romans to contain wine or other liquids. Lararium, shrine to the household gods, the Lares. Lares, household deities in Roman religion that encompassed hero ancestors, guardians of the hearth, fields, boundaries, or fruitfulness. Levatio, the bathing of a cult image in annual ritual. Lectisternium, a propitiatory public banquet laid out for the gods, with images placed on couches. Lesbian cyma, uppermost moulding of the cornice in the classical order, made of the S-shaped cyma moulding combining a concave cavetto with a convex ovolo. Lesbian wave, concave band or strip used in architectural moulding. Lex, law or legal formula. Some cult formulas are called leges. The word preserved its meaning of set words in ritual contexts. Libatio, libation or drink offering, an act regularly performed both at home and in public ritual. Liberatio, the act of freeing a site from unwanted or hostile spiritual influence, part of templum inauguration. Libertinus, a freed slave, libertus for male, liberta for female. Libri augurales, augural books, representing the core knowledge of the augural college. Libri pontificales, core texts of Roman religion, written archives of pontifical law, rituals, and cult maintenance. Lintel, horizontal block that spans the space between two supports, usually over an opening such as a window or door. Litatio, the certification, upon inspecting the entrails, of divine approval of a sacrificial victim. Litius, the curved staff of an augur symbolizing his office. Loggia, covered exterior gallery or corridor usually on an upper level but sometimes at ground level. Lucus, a grove or small wooded area considered sacred, often with restricted access. Ludi, games held as part of religious festivals including chariot racing and staged animal fights. Luminello, small votive lamp or lamp nozzle or flame opening. Lunette, in architecture, a half-moon-shaped space, either masonry or void. Lupercus, wolf priests, colleges of priests associated with the Lupercalia festival. Lustratio, the ritual of purification conducted every 5 years in Rome, under the jurisdiction of the censors. Maenad, female follower of Dionysus, known as Bacchus in Roman religion. Manubia, the power of a deity to wield lightning, represented iconographically by a lightning bolt. Metope, rectangular architectural element that fills the space between two triglyphs in a Doric frieze. Miraculum, a portent or sign, non-technical term emphasizing the observer's response of wonder. Molla salsa, salted flour ritually prepared by the Vestals and used to sprinkle on sacrificial victims, altars, and sacred fires. Moulding decorative finishing strip. Monstrum, a sign or portent that disrupts the natural order as evidence of divine displeasure. Origin of English monster. Mundus, a pit associated with Rome's foundation rites, ritually opened only 3 days a year, regarded as a portal to the underworld. Nebris, skin of a faun often worn by Dionysus, satyrs and bacchanals. Nephos, any action contrary to divine law and will, religiously or morally offensive. Nefastus, days on which official transactions or public business were forbidden by religious law. Negotium, business activities. Nemus, one of several words for woods or forests, differs from Lucus, silver and saltus. Nereid, sea nymphs, female spirits of sea waters, the 50 daughters of Nereus and Doris. Nuntiatio, the reporting of observed auspices or omens by an augur. Nymph, supernatural being associated with many other minor female deities that are often associated with the air, seas, woods, water, or particular locations. Nymphaeum, structure consecrated to nymphs, especially those of springs, usually containing one or more fountains. Obnuntiatio, declaration of unfavourable omens by an official to suspend or postpone public action. Observatio, the interpretation of signs based on established tradition or observed rules. Oculus, a circular opening in the centre of a dome such as the one in the roof of the Pantheon in Rome or in a wall. Ecus, reception room in a Roman domus. Olear, an oil can or vessel used to dispense lubricating oil. Omen, a sign intimating the future, less community important than a prodigium, can be averted, redirected, or ignored. Opus caementicium, concrete used in construction in ancient Rome, irregular pieces of stone, terracotta, or brick used to bind the mortar of concrete. Opus incertum, ancient Roman construction technique, using irregularly shaped and randomly placed uncut stones or fist-sized tough blocks. Opus latericium, ancient Roman form of construction in which coarse-laid brickwork is used to face a core of opus caementicium. Opus reticulatum, form of brickwork used in ancient Roman architecture consisting of diamond-shaped bricks of tuff, referred to as cubilia. Opus sectile, art technique popularized in the ancient and medieval Roman world where materials were cut and inlaid into walls and floors. Opus signinum, building material used in ancient Rome made of tiles broken up into very small pieces, mixed with mortar, and then beaten down. Opus tessellatum mosaic, made from tesserae that are larger than about 4 mm, used for larger areas and laid down at the final site. Opus vitatum mixtum, combination of brick and small stone blocks used as the facing of an opus caementicium wall. Ordo sacerdotum, the hierarchy of priests as represented by their seating order at sacrificial banquets. Orthostates, large stone slabs revetting the lower part of the cellar of a temple. Oscillium, ornaments suspended from the architrave of a peristyle in a Roman house. Ostentarium, a written collection describing and interpreting omens or signs. Ostentum, a sign that shows something. In theoretical usage refers to signs from inanimate objects. Ostiarius, porter or doorman, a servant or guard posted at the entrance of a building. Otium, leisure, including time spent eating, playing, resting, contemplation, and engaging in academic endeavours. Paludatus, adjective meaning wearing the paludamentum, the attire of a Roman military commander. Palmette, decorative motif suggestive of a palm leaf. Patera, earthenware or metal saucer used by the ancient Romans for drinking and libations at sacrifices. Paterfamilias, oldest living male in a household who exercises autocratic authority over his extended family. Patronus, protector, sponsor, and benefactor of the client in a Roman patron-client relationship. Pax Diorum, religious concord and harmony between the divine and human, only given in return for correct religious practice. Panaria, storeroom or pantry for provisions. Penates, household deities, invoked most often in domestic rituals associated with Vesta, the Lares, and the genius of the paterfamilias. Peristyle, continuous porch of columns surrounding a courtyard or garden. Phyle, building or columned arcade around a fountain. Piaculum, an expiatory sacrifice or the victim used in such a sacrifice, also denotes the act requiring expiation. Pietas, duty, religiosity or religious behaviour, loyalty or devotion, one of the chief virtues among the ancient Romans. Pignatino, small terracotta pot shaped like a pine cone. Pilaster, architectural element used to give the appearance of a supporting column and to articulate an extent of wall, with only an ornamental function. Pinax, painting on a wooden panel, sometimes with shutters, or in Pompeian fourth-style decor, a painted framed picture painted directly on a wall. Pious, that which is in accord with divine law, designating persons or actions respectful of the gods. Plebs, general body of free Roman citizens who were not patricians, as determined by the census or, in other words, commoners. Plinian eruption, volcanic eruptions marked by their similarity to the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE. Plinth, the base or support on which a statue, obelisk or column is mounted, also called a pedestal. Pluteus, balustrade made up of massive rectangular slabs of wood, stone or metal, which divides part of a building in half. Pomerium, religious boundary around the city of Rome and cities controlled by Rome. In legal terms, Rome existed only within its pomerium. Pontifex, priest of the highest-ranking religious college. Chief priest was the Pontifex Maximus. Popa, a lesser-ranked officiant at a sacrifice, often depicted carrying the implement to strike the victim. Porticus, series of columns or arches creating a covered walkway. Poricere, to offer as a sacrifice, especially entrails, to the gods. Portentum, a kind of sign interpreted by a haruspex, close synonym to ostentum, prodigium and monstrum. Posticum, back door to a Roman house. Prenomen, personal name or forename chosen by the parents of a Roman child. Precetio, the formal addressing of a deity or deities in a ritual, closely related to prex. Prex, prayer, almost always appearing in the plural as the final expression of one's request in formal prayer. Proco, terracotta flask or beaker. Prodigium, an unnatural deviation from the order of the cosmos, signalling divine displeasure and requiring expiation. Profanum, literally in front of the shrine, referring to what is not within a sacred space, hence belonging to humans, not to gods. Propitious, augural term meaning favourable, a pattern in bird flight or signs favourable to the person taking auspices. Protome, adornment that takes the form of the head and upper torso of either a human or an animal. Pudicitia, modesty, chastity or sexual virtue, a central concept in ancient Roman sexual ethics. Pulvinan, the special couch for displaying images of the gods during ceremonies. Punteggiato regolare, floor pavement with regular punctuations of coloured tessellae. Putile, circular stone enclosure, usually surrounding the mouth of a well to prevent people from falling into it. Pyroclastic flow, fast-moving current of hot gas and volcanic matter that moves away from a volcano. Pyroclastic surge, flowing mixture of gas and rock fragments ejected during some volcanic eruptions. Quadriga, car or chariot drawn by 4 horses abreast. Regina Sacrorum, the wife of the Rex Sacrorum, a high priestess with specific religious duties. Religio, originally meant obligation to the gods, religious scruple or care for the proper rites expected by the gods. Religiosus pertains to that which is marked out or owned by the gods distinct from Cersa. A graveyard is religiosus, rem divinam facere. To do a divine thing, i.e., to perform a religious ceremony or rite, res divina. The matters that pertain to the gods contrasted with res humanae. Responsum, the opinion or argument issued by official priests on points of religious practice and archived. Revêtement, facade of stone slabs or decorated ceramic plaques used as the outer facing layer of a wall. Rex sacrorum, a senatorial priesthood ranked as the highest prestige priest, maintaining oversight of public religious rites. Riten, horn-shaped, conical or animal-shaped container from which fluids were intended to be drunk or to be poured in ceremony. Ritus, the traditional and correct way to perform a religious function, the origin of rite. Ritus Graecus, Roman religious practice or ritual performed in the Greek manner with head uncovered, often in Greek dress. Caesar, describes a thing or person given to the gods beyond legal or moral claim by humans. Not everything sacred could be returned to profanum except by proper rites. Sacellum, a diminutive from Caesar, typically a shrine, sometimes described as an unenclosed space. Sacerdos, any priest or priestess, i.e., one who performs a sacred act. Sacra, the traditional cult practices, includes both sacra publica and sacra privata, sacra gentilicia, private rites particular to aegenes, often related to ancestor worship and family rites. Sacramentum, an oath or vow rendering the swearer given to the gods if violated, the root of sacrament. Sacrarium, place where sacred objects are stored. Sacrificium, an offering or thing dedicated to the gods for their disposal. Sacrifice is fundamental to religio. Sacrosanctus, defined by law as inviolable, especially of tribunes of the plebs, guaranteed by civil and religious sanction. Salutatio, daily morning reception at the home of a Roman patron where he would receive his clients at dawn in the atrium and tablinum. Samnites, ancient Oscan-speaking tribal peoples of central Italy, who first allied with then later warred with the Romans. Santio, to ratify and guarantee a compact under divine penalty. Sanctus, that which has been established as inviolable or sacred, protected by a sanction. Second style, Roman painting style or illusionism that dominated the 1st century BCE and retained the marble look of the first style, but incorporated faux architectural features. Servare de caelo, to observe the templum of the sky for signs, literally watching for something from the sky. Sestertius, originally a small silver coin equal to 2.5 asses or 1/4 of a denarius. Under Augustus it evolved into a large brass coin. Signum, a sign, token, or indication, collectively events or things marking divine activity or identity. Silens, elderly rustic spirits in the train of the god Dionysus. Silentium, governs silence required in ritual to ensure correctness and prevent faults. Cima, top moulding of a pediment placed above its cornice. Sinister, originally left and favourable in augury, later became unfavourable. Sinopia, dark reddish-brown and natural earth pigment, whose reddish colour comes from hematite, used for the underdrawing for a fresco. Sodalitas, a voluntary association or priestly confraternity. Socul, the lowest horizontal course of paint on an interior wall of a Roman house, sometimes projects from the wall and is used for display, also called the dado. Spectio, watching, sighting, observation for signs in the sky by augurs or magistrates. Sponsor, a formal, religiously guaranteed obligation, meaning betrothal or binding promise, the root of sponsor. Stitch, height from the horizontal plane to the apex of the dome of a barrel vault. Stola, long pleated dress, worn over an undergarment called a tunic or tunica intima. Stucco, construction material made of aggregates, a binder and water, used as a decorative coating for walls and ceilings. Superstitio, excessive devotion or irregular ritual practice considered irrational or against Roman custom. Supplicatio, days of public prayer when the populace made processions asking for or giving thanks for divine aid. Taberna, retail unit or workshop where economic activities or service industries were provided, including the sale of cooked food, wine and bread. Tabernaculum, augural tent, site of ritual observation, origin of the English tabernacle. Tablinum, office in a Roman house, where the paterfamilias would receive his clients. Originally the master bedroom, later became the main office. Tinea, small fillet moulding near the top of the architrave in a Doric column or headband, ribbon or fillet. Templum, a sacred space defined by augurs for the taking of auspices, can be temporary or permanent. Terminus ante quem, in Latin, limit before which, used in relative dating when something can be dated before a certain year. Terminus post quem, in Latin, limit after which, used in relative dating when something can be dated after a certain year. Tessera, tiles, usually formed in the shape of a cube, used in creating a mosaic. Third style, an ornate style of Roman interior painting popular around 20 BCE that departed from illusionistic devices of the second style. Thyrsus, a wand or staff of giant fennel, and covered with ivy vines and leaves, topped with a pine cone, associated with Dionysus or his followers. Titulus pictus, commercial inscriptions on artifacts such as amphora. Toga, a semicircular cloth between 12 and 20 feet in length draped over the shoulders and around the body, woven from white wool. Tondo, a circular work of art, either a painting or a sculpture. Trapezophoros, a marble table support for a large tabletop that probably stood in the atrium of a Roman house. Triclinium, a formal dining room in a Roman house that usually contained 3 couches sized to accommodate diners who reclined on their left side. Trompe-l'œil, French for trick the eye. An art technique that uses realistic imagery to create the optical illusion that the depicted objects exist in 3 dimensions. Tuff, rock made of volcanic ash ejected from a vent during a volcanic eruption. Tympanum, the triangular or segmental space enclosed by a pediment or arch, any space similarly marked off or bounded as above a window. Unguentarium, a small container for oil made of metal, ceramic or glass, though it is also suited for storing and dispensing liquid and powdered substances. Ustrinum, the public site within a necropolis where dead bodies were burned. Veduta, highly detailed, usually large-scale painting or, more often, print of a cityscape or some other vista. Verba certa, exact words of a legal or religious formula recited in ritual, set and immutable. Verba concepta, preconceived words or adaptable formulas for specific circumstances. Ver sacrum, a ritual vow offering the sacred spring, often associated with migration. Victima, larger animal offering in a sacrifice, sometimes distinguished from hostia, could also refer to human victims. Victimarius, attendant or assistant at a sacrifice handling the animal, typically responsible for restraining or killing it. Viridarium, Roman gardens, also known as hortus. Virtus, valor, manliness, excellence, courage, character, and worth, perceived as masculine strengths in ancient Rome. Vitium, a mistake or disruption in ritual, tainting the outcome of elections, laws, or actions. Vitulare, chanting a formula with joyful intonation. Vitulatio is a Thanksgiving festival and ritual of triumph. Volute, a spiral, scroll-like ornament that forms the basis of the Ionic order. Votum, a vow or promise made to a deity, or the thing promised, expressing the contractual nature of Roman religion. Xenium, gift of fine food offered to a guest upon arrival, or painting representing such food. Zothica, alcove with a lowered ceiling for maximum privacy, usually found in a cubiculum. Thank you for joining the boring verbivore on this tranquil journey through the language of ancient Rome. May these echoes of history bring you comfort and guide you gently into restful sleep. If you enjoyed tonight's gentle exploration, feel free to subscribe for more soothing voyages through time and words. Rest well, and until next time, buona notte.